Good. So today we're here for the 2008 F150. And we got a serious problem. We had a serious problem with the wheel bearings. The wheel bearings would actually sound like they are garbage, and they would just start making a screaming sound for no reason. So what I figured I would do is help save some other people some money and teach them what actually is the proper way to diagnose this, instead of having to, well, let's go to the other side anyway. The other side's got a notch in it. Since I've already done it, I don't want to scratch up any part of the body that I don't have to. So let's take it out, pop this sucker off. What you do is that right there is going to be your wheel bearing. So what you have to do is pop off these bolts right here, or the nuts right there, and see the center cap here? That actually gets popped off as well, and there's a nut inside of there. I believe it's a 1/2 inch. And on the other side, like once you have the tire off, you have to take the caliper off. So you stick a screwdriver in the back part of the caliper right in here, and you pry apart the piston of the caliper. And then once you do that, up and behind here, I don't know if you can see that or not, you can see 4 bolts on the back of the caliper of the wheel bearing, with 2 bolts that hold the caliper on. Pop those 2 bolts off. When you pop those 2 bolts off that are on the back mounting bracket of the caliper, and the whole caliper will pop off. Put that on a bucket or something like that, hold it aside so it doesn't put any tension on the lines. Pop off your rotor, and then once you take off your rotor, then you're going to be left with your wheel bearing. Your wheel bearing is going to, once you pop it out, I'll show you this in a second. Let's pop this back on. So let's look at this wheel bearing that we had switched, because it was making an awful grinding noise. And it wasn't until after that I found out that it wasn't having to do with that at all. So here's the old wheel bearing. Here's the old wheel bearing. So those are the 4 bolts that come out the back that actually mount to the hub, or your rocker arm, or whatever it's called, of your vehicle. So it'll go through those on that side. Those are 18mm bolts. Again, 18mm. Use a deep socket, because you're going to need, and a long tension bar. If you've got a, a 2-foot or 3-foot bar that you can fit in there, which you should be able to, because I have, that's the easiest way. See these teeth right here? This is special to a 4x4. Especially the Ford F150s, it's going to be like this. So what it is, on the other side, there's a collar that actually goes around this with a gear, and that gets sucked in. It's called an auto hub actuator, and that actually gets sucked in on the vehicle when you're not using 4x4. When you engage 4x4, it pushes this collar, and it grabs these gears right here to spin your tire onto the drivetrain. Now, I found out the hard way after switching the bearing and still running into the exact same problem of it scraping for, I drove for probably an hour and a half, and then it sounded like the wheel bearing was gone again. So I was like, oh, okay, like it's obviously not the wheel bearing, but it is, like it sounds like it. When I jack the vehicle, it spins and sounds like a wheel bearing, so it must be the wheel bearing. So I open it up again, and I'm like, it's got to be something to do with the wheel bearing. So I look, and this vacuum collar, actually, it was pinched by the mechanic that did a rack and pinion steering job on the vehicle just 2 weeks prior, and he actually pinched the vacuum line that sucks that collar back away from this gear. So it was actually free floating in there, and it was just, as you can see, just chewing off the edges of the gear right here, just chewing it off ever so lightly. And so what would happen is every time you hit a bump, it would start to engage and barely engage and grind a little bit, and then the next bump, what would happen? It's either go further on or further off. So that's why it was sporadic, on and off, on and off, on and off, but it actually did quite a number in a short period of time on this gear. So it was actually just the vacuum hose itself was pinched. So that could have saved anybody and myself $400 for a wheel bearing, obviously. Now, I left the new wheel bearing in just because it can't be returned anyway, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with this one. So I'm just saving this one for a part for next time, and so it can be replaced easy enough. Now, always when you switch your wheel bearings, put some grease in there. Grease is very important. There's also an inner bearing in here. Put some grease in there as well. Now this is going to be your ABS sensor, this cord right here, and that just runs up the back and gets plugged in right underneath the, or right on top of the wheel compartment inside of the vehicle. So if you look here, goes up inside of here and gets mounted right here. So you just pop that clip out and that clip out, and the whole wire will come down, and that's where it gets clipped. So that's very easy of a fix. But I hope that somebody else gets saved for $400 on a wheel bearing just by looking at their vacuum pump line on a 4x4. If you don't have a 4x4, then you don't have a vacuum pump line, and the exact same thing applies if you want to change the wheel bearing on pretty much every vehicle out there, or any truck anyway, or really any vehicle. But if you have a 4x4, then you're going to be looking at this right here, and that I'd never dealt with before. So it was new to me, and so I didn't know what I was looking at when I first popped out the wheel bearing to pop in a new one. But it seems to be that was actually the auto hub actuator. The vacuum seal was making it so that collar was just kind of barely hitting those gears and grinding them off. So the process, obviously, to put it back together, you pop in your new wheel bearing, grease the inside, then put on your castle nut that's going to be inside of your hub right here, put your 4 bolts in, make sure that's all tightened on, and then put your caliper on. Once you block the caliper on, make sure that when you get back into your vehicle, press the brakes a bunch of times anytime that you ever mess with the calipers and push them back. You have to push them a few times to get that pressure back into the lines. Otherwise, when you go to stop the next time, you might not stop exactly how you want it to. So good luck. I hope that helps everyone out there, and hope to see you next time. Take care. So I realized I was telling you about the vacuum line, but I didn't actually show you it. So this is the vacuum line right here. It plugs in to this part down here. It's your auto hub actuator. So when you follow that, I can't actually see the camera, so I'm hoping I'm pointing you in the right direction. But it's right down here. Maybe that'll work better if it gets like that. So that's the vacuum hose. Just pull that off and start the vehicle. When you pull that line off of the back of the auto hub actuator and start the vehicle, before you even take your tire off, just pull that line off and just feel if you even have vacuum. If you don't have vacuum, then you know that this is actually your culprit. It's your vacuum line that's actually engaging your auto hub actuator, or not engaging your auto hub actuator enough to pull that gear back and get it off of your wheel bearing. So you're trying to actually, the vehicle's trying to run in 4x4 the entire time, even though it's not actually pushing it forward. So it's just kind of free floating the gear, and that'll grind your teeth right down, as I showed you in the rest of the video. So that is your vacuum line. One's a suck, one's a blow. Okay? All right, enjoy. Good luck, and hopefully it saves you a whole bunch of time and money and replacing your wheel bearing, and or just repairing it for $0 if you can find the problem. All right, have fun, enjoy.